Welcome to another edition of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff, and thanks for listening once again. Thanks for subscribing. And if you enjoy us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and leave us a comment. We enjoy seeing the reaction. We enjoy the advice that you might have for us. And of course, we enjoy doing this every week. So the first thing, Mal, is the death of Tommy John, 83 years old. I remember in 1974 was my second year with the Expos, and I was scoring the games on radio with Dave Van Horn and Russ Taylor, who was in the radio booth at the time. And the game was in LA, and I remember scoring that game and thinking, "Oh, that's too bad," not realizing the impact that Tommy John would have on Major League Baseball pretty much for the rest of his life. He was the first, obviously, to undergo the surgery named after him, saved his career. He had more wins following the surgery for his elbow, ligament transfer, tendon transfer, than he did before. And David Wells is the only pitcher in Major League history. And we know how many pitchers routinely get Tommy John and come back strong, come back stronger sometimes than they did before. But my question to you is, why is Tommy John not in the Hall of Fame?
That's a really good question. He pitched 26 years, right? I mean, I guess he's deemed not to be good enough, which is kind of crazy on its own. But the Hall of Fame's never been reserved for unique stories, silly as it sounds. It's all about your statistical accomplishments, right? Now, you can still make an argument at 26 years. And how many after Tommy John? Like more years, like of excellence too.
Yeah, he had 288 career wins, which nowadays is like nobody's reaching that total pretty much, other than guys that were like, were around there, which aren't that many. I mean, even Max Scherzer, as much of a shoe-in as he is for the Hall of Fame, isn't going to reach that total. So, I had the same argument for Marvin Miller. Marvin Miller should have been in the Hall of Fame long before because of the impact he had on the game. The impact is what should get you into the Hall of Fame, so that people going in with their kids can say, "Oh yeah, this is Tommy John, and this is the guy that you hear his name all the time." And why is he not in the Hall?
Well, and I mean, and it's a good story. You know what I mean? Like with how many discussions that we had about Pete Rose and how important he is, or Bonds, and the story that's involved rather than just the player, even though the player on their own is good enough. This is a positive story of Tommy John. He threw 4,700 innings, Griff. We're talking about Scherzer, the first ballot Hall of Famer, who just hit what's his number? You know what I mean?
Yeah. He hit 3,000 innings, and everybody's celebrating, and they're throwing the inning out of play and going to put it in his whatever,
Yeah, Tommy John, that's at 4,700 innings, like, and a 3.34 ERA. It's not like he was, I think he was generally excellent, generally really good for a long time, and that's kind of the problem, right? He wasn't he wasn't.
He didn't win a Cy.
Yeah,
he didn't win a Cy. He very rarely made all-star teams, and he didn't win 20 games. I don't think he won 20 games.
He won 20 games twice in a row.
Oh, really? Yeah.
With the Yankees, 97 or 79 and 80, 21 and 9, 22 and 9. But you're right. It wasn't like that was commonplace.
Yeah. I think not winning 20 games is something that stood in the way of a guy like Dave Steep too. I mean, his stuff was sick.
Well, he didn't win games, period, for because
it was early 80s, tough with the expansion Blue Jays at the time, and they got good in 85.
Right.
Yeah. But people talk about prickly personalities and how it can affect the voting in the Hall of Fame. I think Dave Steeb is one of those.
Well, he was.
But Tommy John, there's no excuse. Tommy John had His time on the ballot, on the writers' ballot, and then he's had several opportunities with the Veterans Committee, and I can never figure out the Veterans Committee sometimes.
No.
Like a bunch of guys go in a room on the first day of the winter meetings and come out, and there's white smoke or black smoke.
I saw this again on X or whatever, and it's just the most absurd assertion that people get upset that these knucklehead writers are the ones that vote for the Hall of Fame, and we should take it away from those guys and give it to the people that played the game and understand the game. And there's nothing more inaccurate. The guys who cover the game are the ones that have the best knowledge of who, what, why, and where. They're the ones that cover the game and care for the game. The players and the people in the game are the ones with the least knowledge of what's going on the field. I'm sorry. I just like when I see that, it just drives me crazy. Of course, it should be the BBWAA voting for that thing. That's the point of covering baseball.
Yeah, I'm just an example, one of many, but I've seen every Hall of Fame player in person.
Right.
1978, anyone who's been voted in, I've seen play live.
Right.
Which I think is a credential for having a vote.
I would say, and especially you've been in locker rooms with coaches, players, that they don't have a clue what's going on. They're worried about themselves.
In fact, if a player has been in the major leagues for 20 years, basically day to day, he's in his own world, in his own clubhouse, and doesn't see, other than highlights on television, doesn't see all these other games.
Yeah.
So, like, what makes that more apt to vote for the Hall of Fame than someone who's seen baseball for 20 years, different games live from a position of observing who's good, who's not, who's a Hall of Famer, who's not.
Your job is to observe. That is the job. And to write about it. I mean, anyways, it's a personal pet peeve when I see silly stuff like that.
Yeah. But the bottom line is we both agree that Tommy John should go. And he'll probably go in the next time, which is great for his family, but not so great for Tommy John, who felt, I mean, he was quoted as saying that he thought his politics stood in the way because he voted for Donald Trump, which is silly in my mind, because what accounts for the 20 years before that,
What 83-year-old doesn't?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the Blue Jays and their current hopes for a wild card and how reasonable they are. I mean, as we record on Tuesday morning, the Jays are about to start a series in Tampa, in St. Petersburg, to be more precise, against the Rays. And the Rays, once again, prove everybody who's skeptical about their methods are proving them wrong. I mean, this is a team that the Jays have trouble beating. There's 36 games to play. Jays are 61-65. What are the chances they emerge from the group of 7 that are contending to capture the wild card? I know that you probably are more optimistic than I am on that.
Well, they're since we spoke last time, when I think we were both pessimistic, I think you have to change your tune. I mean, they've done the work to get here. And to me, Griff, this series is probably I know it sounds silly, but the critical one. You've got to come out of here swimming. You've got to come out here, not getting your rear end beat by the Rays, which we've seen many times. If they do that and fall back to where they were, good night. But if they can hang with Tampa, keep it going, you've got to think you've got every reason to be as alive as any of those other teams coming into the final, the final month here. So they've won some games. They've done some work to get back in it. Is it silly? 4 games under? Yeah, it's a product of the league and where we're at. So, but I mean, nobody's going to care if you get in. I've never heard of 4 games under and feeling like they're 5 games over for some reason lately. Yeah. But hey, they've done some work to get back in it. So can they stay there? I don't know.
Yeah, no team in this century has made it to the postseason with fewer than 84 wins. So to win 84, the Jays need to go, as we speak, 23-13. We talk about the problems they've had in Tampa since 2007. Then they go to Yankee Stadium, they go to the Bronx, and they just almost swept the Yankees at home. So the Yankees will be laying in the weeds for them, waiting for them. So this upcoming 6 games is probably going to make or break. Not that they make it, but that they're still contending in the final month.
I think you got to go 3-3 in these games.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, and then you're going to be you're going to be alive. You know what I mean?
You've traveled. We've discussed this issue before, but going to Tampa, I have a theory on the familiarity and the family atmosphere that the Jays bring with them to Tampa, and how it affects going to the ballpark and being 100% focused on the games and on beating the Rays. I recall that you disagree a little bit on that, in terms of, like, as soon as that plane lands, people are being picked up by their families, because it's spring training area for the Blue Jays. A lot of them have homes there. A lot of them bring their families down. How do you account for the fact that they've never played well in Tampa?
I mean, I think some of that's true. As you know, we get to the clubhouse and it feels like a spring training game, because all the guys that are in Dunedin are now in the clubhouse at the Trop. So you're just like, holy smokes, there's another 10 guys running around in a uniform that aren't going to play. It's just a little strange environment. But I think Tampa's always played a brand of baseball that's given the Blue Jays some trouble, and they're doing it even more these days. They're itching and scratching and playing more of an old school style run, smaller ball, but if you know what I mean, not necessarily bunting and stuff like that, but using the speed game. And I think that's just kind of given the Blue Jays troubles over the years, and some of it is hard to explain. The fact is, Tampa's just been a good team for many of those years. I mean, I can remember having trouble in Yankee Stadium too, and they were just a really good team. That's a big factor. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. But people point out how once they get past the Yankees series, so the next 6 games as we speak, that the final 30 games are a breeze. No teams above 500. And well, the fact is that 18 of the final 30 games are going to be against teams that are in the same boat as the Blue Jays. They think they can be wild card contenders. These are the teams against whom they're competing.
Right.
So,
and what you're saying is
games are under 500. Yeah, but so are you.
Yeah, that's right. Like, when you're saying that, you're making this assumption that you're better than they are.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh yeah, they stink, we don't. No, that's not the truth. Everybody stinks.
I mean, to your point about playing the Rays and their style of baseball, the Yankees in that final game stole 4 bases and seemed to be stealing at will against the Jays. And when they're in a close game, when the Jays are in a close game, these are things that don't show up. But whenever Alejandro Kirk gets on base in the 7th inning on, and they need that run, they pinch run for him, and then they bring in Brandon Bell as well. How many teams pinch run for their number 1 catcher in the 7th inning of a very tight game?
And with their number 2 catcher.
Right. Yeah, they're pinch running with
somebody who can run for real.
Yeah.
It's one thing I've never understood, Griff, why teams don't take. We did it a little bit back in the day. So you go get, not that Valenzuela's he's fine, but he's no burner. He's a catcher. Why can you not designate a pitcher, starting pitcher, to run the bases late in the game? I mean, can we just, like, we did it with Stroman a bunch back in the day. You tell me there's not a guy on a staff that could be a pinch runner,
I remember in one of the competitive seasons that the Expos had it, so it was like either 79 or 80. That Steve Rogers pinch ran. He's a good athlete. Mm-hmm. He pinch ran and he slid in and broke his hand, and he was out for the rest of the year.
Why didn't they stop that?
Yeah, they stopped. That was the last time Dick Williams ever tried that with one of his pitchers, especially Steve Rogers. But yeah, no, I mean, there is that danger. Um, but it's the same thing as you can get hurt anywhere, anytime.
Right.
So
Come on, like you need a guy to run. They're baseball players. I mean, you know, Brendan Little's got to have better function than what he's giving you. So maybe you can swipe a bag.
yeah, well, yeah, he's used to hitting the dirt.
Yeah,
He has to slide or throw a
that's
slider.
right. That's right.
Question: to win 81 games from the moment we're recording, they need to go 20-16. That seems more reasonable than winning 84.
I think that's the path. Yeah.
Do you think that the fan base would be optimistic heading into the off season that they were able after the trade deadline to fight back to 500, even if they didn't make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think regardless, I think there's still going to be quite a bit of optimism going into next year with, adding Soriano. Like, let's see how Bateman finishes. If there's some optimism there, some of the new guys, I think it's very clear they're not. We spoke about this. They're not shutting it down. They're rebuilding for 2027. They've got their sights set on. So I think there's going to be a lot of optimism, and I fully expect them to get after it again in the off season on whatever level. Who knows? But
yeah, it's probably going to have to be as soon as the season ends in the month of November. They're going to have to go after whatever they need offensively. And I truly do believe that the reason they did most of their moves at the trade deadline pitching-wise is because they want more of a definite rotation and bullpen set up for the offseason so they can focus on creating offense, on finding offensive players. And they need to know about Barger. They need to know about Santander. They need to know about guys that weren't there this year. They need to know about their outfield picture. They got so many of the same redundant type outfielders.
Yeah.
So they leave that to the offseason. But it's going to have to be a quick fix before December 1st, because that's when likely the negotiations will shut down any transactions, maybe even the winter meetings or whatever. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that I agree with you that fans will be optimistic even with a 500 finish.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see why. There's no question. There is hope going into next year already.
Yeah. But just one final question on this. 36 game stretch. Trade deadline happened. We all know what happened at the deadline. But is it reasonable to believe that the Jays could have probably their best 36 game stretch of the 26 season with Yasavich and Arrighetti, Taillon on the IL since the trade deadline, with Cease, Soriano, Bieber, Scherzer, and a bullpen day as the rotation?
It's only reasonable because of how crappy the first part of the season's been. They're not as well positioned to do it by losing those guys. But can they finish with a above 500 record the rest of the way? Sure, they can. But I mean, they're not as well positioned to do it as they were earlier in the year when they just didn't do it.
Well, the above 500 to get back to 500 would be great, I think. But 23 and 13 is sort of like a head-scratchingly difficult.
Feels like a pipe dream. Yeah.
That would get them to 84 wins, and that wouldn't even guarantee.
I think your hope, Griff, is to get to 81 and 81 and hope it's enough. And there's a chance it is. And there's a chance this year, particularly, it might be. So.
Okay, I'm going to read off the 7 teams that believe they have a chance. And you tell me the top 2 or 3 that you think are the biggest challenge for the Blue Jays or for that wild card. the Orioles, Blue Jays, Tigers, Twins, Guardians, Rangers, Mariners. Who are the top two?
God. I'd say Texas, because I think they have some ability out there. I mean, the Mariners feel like they're dead. They just do. I don't know what's gone on there. I mean, any of those Central teams, as silly as it sounds, aren't great, but playing each other, I think one of them could jump out at you. Like the Guardians can hang in there, and the Tigers can hang in there. The team that's still perplexing to me is a bit as the Orioles, right?
Yeah. I mean, they just finished winning 3 out of 4 in Tampa, so that sort of is an upside for them inside the clubhouse.
For sure. But I still don't know how trading Rushman at this point will help them down the stretch. But again, I don't think there's anybody that goes, oh my God, that's the team. Do you? I mean, that's the point.
I look at the Orioles because everyone expected them to be much better before the season started. Of course, that was the same expectation for the Blue Jays too.
Yeah.
But the Orioles, and then I look at the Mariners. I can't look past the Mariners because of their pitching staff. They're offensively, they haven't done anything, and they have a superstar who had a terrible year. Does that sound familiar? Cal Raleigh and Brad.
Terrible.
But,
he had more home runs than hits this year. Like not even logical.
He had more home runs last year than he's got hits this year, right?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But yeah, those are my two choices. But what do I know? Here, let's just sort of to continue in that vein. The Blue Jays this year compared to the team that went to, and I'm talking down the stretch, that went to the World Series last year. Well, where do they match up well? I mean, do you think, let's start with catching. You've got Kirk and Heineman last year, Kirk and Valenzuela this year. Seems to be an advantage for this year.
It seems to be an advantage, except for the way Heineman played last year. Sorry, he hit. Like Heineman was a contributor. But I mean, if you ask me which tandem I want, yes, give me Valenzuela. But I mean, it's hard to knock the production you got from Heineman last year. I mean, but okay, I want Valenzuela.
Okay, the first base, Vlad last year or Vlad this year? That seems obvious.
Yeah, wow. You might want to stop going around the diamond. That might be enough of your answer right there.
Well, that's. I mean, some comparisons carry more weight than others in this exercise that we're conducting here.
Yeah.
And the Vlad last year to the Vlad this year carries a lot more weight than, say, this one here of second base with Andres Jimenez last year, Ernie Clement this year.
I'll take Ernie every day just because of the offense, but he hasn't played great there. But I mean, I'll take Ernie just because of the bat, and he's a good defender.
Yeah, I'd give that a soft. I'd give it even.
Yeah, that's fair.
Jimenez last year, yeah. I mean, I don't know how Ernie Clement. I think the career highlight will be getting the most votes for the All-Star game of anybody in 2026. Third base, Ernie Clement last year, Kaz Okamoto this year.
You got to give it to Kaz with the power.
Yeah. So that's not bad for this year compared to last year so far.
No.
Shortstop, Bichette last year and Andres Jimenez this year.
You just can't not say Bichette. I'm sorry. And I love Jimenez. I really do. I mean, it's 200 hits, Griff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you got to give it to Bo, even, with the difference in defense incorporated into that thought, into that comparison. Still Bo. This last year, Bo, not this year, Bo.
Yeah.
Although
Yes.
both numbers, he had a 5-for-5 game the other day. But yeah, but his numbers are still not what I'm sure 42 million and the Mets were expecting.
Just
a guess. Just a guess. Outfield. Outfield is a mishmash this year, but let's go Varsho. Last year, Varsho, Barger, Straw, Lucas. Compare that to Jesus Sanchez, Bateman, Straw, and Lucas. You know, like last year.
I think there's no comparison. I mean, what you got out of Barger alone, all-star type numbers, and Varsho was Varsho, except he had all that increased power in the short sample. So you were really getting some good production in the outfield last year that just didn't exist this year.
Yeah. I think it's very subtle and it's hard to put a finger on day to day, but the defense seems to have suffered this year, although and in ways that hurt the pitching staff. But Bateman, I think, has solidified it a little bit. You know,
yeah, that's been exciting.
He hasn't made any spectacular catches, but he makes a lot of catches.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. We're doing this exercise and we were just talking about earlier about writers observing the game as opposed to players and managers. And I was just reminded the other day about playoff game, I guess in the 80s, and the analysts for the playoff game were Jim Palmer and Billy Martin. Obviously, Billy wasn't managing at the time.
Yeah.
And it was the Royals and the Yankees, and they were doing exactly what we were doing, position by position, who's got the edge. And they got the third base, and it was Brett and Nettles. And Billy Martin weighs in, and he goes, George Brett's a fine player, but Nettles is the best third baseman defensively in baseball. He goes, so the Yankees have a big advantage there. That was the year George Brett hit 390 that year. And by the way, was an excellent third baseman. So sometimes our perception inside the game can be a little skewed. You know what I mean? I just laughed. Who would, and I love Nettles, but who would ever say such an absurd thing?
That is a perfect example of our earlier discussion about the Hall of Fame. That's great.
Nettles by a million.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure George heard about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wrap up with pitching here compared to last year to this year. Last year was Gausman beat the rotation, Gausman, Bieber, Bassett, Barrios, Scherzer. And this year, Cease, this is just down the stretch. Cease, Soriano, Scherzer, Bieber, and a bullpen day.
Maybe because of the bullpen day, but outside of that, it's pretty darn comparable right now. If you got Soriano and Cease going for you and a functional Bieber, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think they're in a position, it's just that fifth spot that could really mess things up with your bullpen.
Yeah.
And you've got nobody really to actually grab that spot.
Well, Arrighetti seems to be getting over his Morton's neuroses or whatever it is, Morton's neurons. I don't know what it is. I've never heard of it before, but he's getting over it. And they're saying that maybe a couple more rehab starts and he'll be able to get back in the rotation. But you're not talking about Cy Young here. You're talking about Spencer Arrighetti.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Better last year right now?
Well, I think one of the more astute moves they made at the deadline, and it didn't seem to be, was trading Gausman to the Cubs, because Gausman wasn't going to come back in his age 36 season next year. Yeah, he wasn't going to re-sign to like a 2 or 3 year extension. So they cleared the deck and they got some prospects, and that was a good move in itself, except it looked like they were real sellers at the deadline. And then the next morning they got Soriano. And I think in this current rotation, plus 27 and 28, having Soriano as a number 2 guy to Dylan Cease in the rotation is a brilliant move.
Yeah.
Because if they had planned on bringing Gausman back, they would have made some sort of an offer. And they're not going to go out and re-sign him as a free agent. That's off the boards. That's not going to happen.
No, that's why they traded him, for sure.
So I still think last year with Bieber sort of proving himself after surgery and Bassett being Bassett, the professor, I think that last year was a better scenario. And Dylan Cease pitches once every 5 or 6 days. Soriano, but beyond that, I think Scherzer and Bieber, to expect Scherzer and Bieber to have 7 more quality starts down the stretch is a little much with their history of injuries and whatever. So
fair enough.
Bullpen last year: Hoffman, Varland, Sir Anthony, Fisher, Little, Fluharty. And this year, Varland, Tyler Rogers, Fisher, Fluharty, Miles, and Little. Which bullpen is, to you, is more effective?
I think what they're missing this year, and not that he was obviously, they're missing another power arm back there. Like Hoffman-esque, if you know what I mean. Not to say that was the answer, but I feel like right now they're missing that middle, late game leverage guy, 7th inning guy. I think they're just missing one. Outside of Rogers, a good pitcher, and Varland obviously is great, but outside of that, who do you feel confident going to get the heart of the order in the 7th inning? Like I don't know. I feel like that guy's missing right now.
Yeah, I think when you mention Hoffman, I think that's bang on. If they had Hoffman right now, you wouldn't have a bunch of relievers working on fumes, just getting through, and that's going to be difficult for the last 36 games without Hoffman, because there's a circle of trust of 5 pitchers if you include Fluharty.
Right.
There's 5 relievers that they trust, and you brought Matt Waldron in the 9th inning with a 5-run lead, and he couldn't get through it. You had to bring Varland in to save it.
And unfortunately, how many times have I seen a Chase Lee in an important spot, extra innings, like that can't happen. He can't pitch. He cannot pitch at this level. But you're moving guys up and down and in, and all of a sudden these 4A guys are in the middle of big moments, and that's been a problem.
And I think that the Blue Jays were trading Jeff Hoffman not because of any failure this year, because he had found a role that he could be significant in, and it wasn't closer. It was 7th or 8th inning, 1 inning, blow people away. They weren't trading that Jeff Hoffman. They were trading the $11 million next year Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah.
And those are 2 different issues. I mean, they're going to miss him this year down the stretch, and maybe they didn't think that they were going to be in a position to capture a wild card, like a long shot position to capture a wild card. But Hoffman could have been a big factor here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Is Brett Bateman, for example, that was part of the deal for Gosman with the Cubs. And of course, they have Pete Crow Armstrong in center field. So Brett Bateman was backed up pretty much. Wasn't going to be a part of the Cubs' future at any point. So somebody liked him and brought him over. And I think it's a simple comparison. I think DeMarlo Hale said it. George Springer might have said it, that Brett Bateman sort of reminds them of Stephen Kwan. Well, no shit.
That's racist.
Yeah, I mean, really. But if he is anything like Kwan moving forward, he can be a part of this outfield.
He can, but man, he's going to have to hit for average, because maybe in this new kind of version of what we're looking at, what the Rays are doing, there's a real need, and there is a real need in this lineup for a guy like that. As long as he can maintain a higher average and get on base, that's going to be the key. Because if he can't do that, those other skills don't come into play just as much, right? So he had a good year this year all around, but the problem I think where people get caught up is he's never really done it before that. So,
Yeah.
So as a guy coming in,
we know how much of a copycat game or sport Major League Baseball is. If somebody has success, other teams try and copy it. So we're seeing fewer launch angle hitters now, and it's bat to ball. And you talk about the Rays and their style. In Dunedin, the Blue Jays low class A team has 130 stolen bases as a team. They got 5 guys with 20 plus. So maybe like 2 or 3 years away, a couple of these guys, and there's names that fans would recognize who are in the 20 plus stolen base. But it seems to be almost an organizational philosophy, and you have to start at that level and then watch these guys develop through the system. You can't just say this is what we're going to do from now on, because you just can't do that. You have to develop your own. But maybe they are imitating. Maybe they are getting to a sort of a go-go Blue Jays type organization, and a couple of those guys can come up and help at some point. I think JoJo Parker is one of them.
I just think you got to find like the old story of building a team, right? Instead of a bunch of guys that on their own are good, but how does it fit the mix? And a guy like Bateman, the one thing I do like is he knows the strike zone. That's important. Like, he's not just a slasher up there. You know what I mean? Like a Ben Revere type guy where he's swinging and he's fast, but no, he's a guy that gets on base and knows the strike zone, and that's most important. So if he can maintain a batting average that's not like 240, you know what I mean? And that remains to be seen. If he can get it up in that 270 range, you're going to have yourself a player.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the next Stephen Kwan, or he could be the next Derek Fisher, Bradley Zimmer, Socrates Brito, Alan Roden, Will Robertson, Cam Eden, Josh Palacios, Anthony Alford, Dwight Smith Jr., or Dalton Pompey.
Ouch.
Just saying.
Maybe he's more Brett Butler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
Guy with a long career. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here, I stirred up some controversy on Twitter unintentionally. Sometimes
intentionally. Yeah, that's you, unintentional.
But I was just commenting on a Shai Davidi, and Shai and I are friends. I mean, we're all friends with, on the beat. People think we're competitive, but we're all friends, and we share a beer. The only thing I don't share with Shai is going to the exercise room at 6 a.m. But other than that,
I'll catch up with you later.
Yeah, we're good friends. So I responded to his grueling comment about 17 straight days of games for the Blue Jays and 30 games in 31 days, and how heroic this team is for getting back into the race, given the grueling schedule. And the word grueling struck me. So I wrote back, grueling, you call that grueling? Like, thinking more of Crocodile Dundee scene with a knife. You call that a knife? And a knife. The response I got was so vitriolic and hateful.
Not from Shai, I hope.
No, not from Shai. Shai says he doesn't read that stuff. So
yeah.
he just posts. He doesn't read. He just posts.
Yeah.
So you've been around the game, maybe not as long as I have, but going back to the last century, going back to the early 90s, and is 17 days in a row and 30 and 31 to you, is that defined by the word grueling? Because I posted that the Expos in 1979, when we won 95 games and I was a PR guy traveling every day, played 32 games in 28 days, 8 doubleheaders, had a 25-7 record. And this was in August, September, when, during the stretch drive, and ended up losing to the Pirates, who went on to beat the Orioles in the World Series, a great World Series. And I met my wife at that World Series. So there's that. If we had won a couple more games. But And then 26 straight days on the road is another grueling. When the beam fell off Olympic Stadium, and that created a lot of ha moments around baseball. But it did affect the team in that 13 home games were canceled, and we played 26 straight days on the road. So that's grueling. Do you have any experience with something that would put to shame 17 days in a row or 30 and 31?
Well, there's what's the limit now? I think is it 21 where you have to have a mandated day off by, I mean, obviously back in your day, Griff, the players had no rights, so they were forced to do this. So they've obviously negotiated these days off into the season at certain points, just because what you went through was grueling. There's no question, and it's almost unfair to do that when in hindsight, that many games and that many days. But in the context of today's baseball, I wouldn't say that was a grueling stretch, because they didn't even get to the limit of what the CBA allows for grueling. But I mean, every team goes through it now. But I mean, it's a long stretch of games, because they had to make up that one game in Chicago. So I mean, God forbid. So that made it grueling.
And that became, they played in 3 different cities on 3 days. Ooh.
Yeah. So it is a long stretch.
Yeah,
it's a long stretch. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not anything anybody else isn't doing in the league anymore. Things have improved, so guys like you don't have to suffer for 35 days.
I got a lot of comments from, and this wasn't just 1 or 2 people. This is a lot of people saying, leave our baseball insider alone. Shy's a good guy, and it was like there were memes of old man shaking fist at clouds. That was me, I suppose. But I mean, really, there were arguments that you're back in your day, they didn't have to put up with the pitch clock and the pitch clock.
The pitch clock.
What?
Oh my God! They only throw 5 innings now too.
Right.
Like you said, how many pitchers you used that year when you had 35 games in 28 days or whatever it was?
There were 15 pitchers for the season.
Through that grueling stretch too.
Yeah, through that grueling stretch. Yeah. And you had relievers. And I've gone over the Mike Marshall example.
Yeah.
But there weren't. That's an extreme example. But you had guys like Dan Schatzeder, who started probably a lot of those doubleheader games. Left-hander, great athlete. He pinch ran, and he started and he pitched multiple innings in relief. He was a very important part of that group. But it was a different game, I admit. But like when guys are celebrating Nick Martinez's first complete game in his 14th season, I'm going, what? And he's considered, is it Nick? No, one of the Martinez for Tampa. He pitched a complete game, and everybody's like high-fiving, like this is Hall of Fame material here,
Yeah, it was a bit of a different time, that's for sure. I'm just going back to, I just saw a documentary the other day on Mark Fidrich, of course.
Yeah.
And it was outstanding. And now that you mentioned the complete game that year, 1976, right?
Yeah.
Just going back to what you're talking about. I mean, in those teams in the 80s, I'm just looking it up quickly. So, Nick Martinez, there's his first one. That year in 76, 29 starts, 24 complete games.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different game. Okay. Yeah, so we are living in the past, but don't call it grueling unless you've looked at numbers from the past.
Yeah, maybe those complete games did cause some trouble. I look what Billy Martin did to those Oakland A's teams. He burned some arms. He burned some arms, let's just say.
Right. Yeah. I mean what year was that? 70, whatever it was. But Billy Martin basically had 4 guys. What was it?
1980, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the 4 guys throw 250 to 300 innings, which is kind of ridiculous and would never happen now. But
Right.
now that they've got 10 trainers in the clubhouse, it's a different game, you know?
Yeah.
Go with the majority opinion on 98 pitches. That's enough. We
Yeah,
don't
we're
want
getting dangerous.
Yeah, we don't want to hurt them. Anyway, next topic here is looking back at the trade deadline and let's give a grade to Ross Atkins in the front office, Mark Shapiro, and they do have a lot of veteran knowledge from other GMs and organizations, and they do a good job basically in analyzing what needs to be done and what's best for this team. But they acquired Taillon. He got hurt. Jose Soriano in the rotation, an important part of the future. Josh Smith, he's sort of a left-handed hitting and better Davis Schneider. Spencer Arguetti, we don't know, but he will be a part of the future moving forward in the rotation likely. I mean, Cody Ponce coming back. They have all sorts of possibilities for 2027. He might pitch down the stretch in 26. We'll see. We have Brett Bateman was acquired, plus 3 minor leaguers that we don't know how good they are. They got rid of Varsho, who's still struggling with the Astros, and we knew he couldn't throw anymore in center field, and was sort of on his way out. I don't think they ever planned to re-sign him to an extension. No. Then Gausman, he'll help the Cubs, but he wasn't going to help the Jays into the future. Jeff Hoffman, we talked about him and the options they had in keeping him or sending him away and how important he is to this bullpen. And then Adam Mako, give him a chance to pitch in the majors maybe next year. Arjun Nimala, they have JoJo Parker, who's ahead of him now. And they also 2 other minor leaguers were sent away. What would you grade the trade deadline for the Jays?
That's a good one. I'll give him a B, and it's all based on that Soriano move, and who knows how that's going to turn out. I do like it because they're obviously telling you that they intend to win next year, and they got a controllable starter. There's a lot to be said for that. Nimala's really bounced back this year and had himself a nice year. So, I mean, let's see what that turns into. You never know down the road, but they paid a price to do it. I think all the other moves made a lot of sense. We don't really know. I think everything was kind of logical what they did this year. It just, they didn't blow it up. They retooled and they got rid of the pieces. The only one they didn't get rid of, because I'm sure they couldn't get anything for him, was Springer. And who knows, maybe he'll help you down the stretch, do something, he's been better. So that was the one that I was surprised didn't go somewhere.
Yeah. I think Springer probably used his no trade ability, and maybe there was a deal that was set up and he just didn't want to go.
And he probably said, I'm done after the season anyway, so let me just stay here. Let me just stay here. I'm fine here. I like it here. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would give Ross and company an A for this trade deadline because of the fact that, and it's underrated, undervalued, the fact that they're still getting 42,000 people into the ballpark. They might have sold 40,000 seats if they had continued down the Gausman path and traded Springer and not brought anybody in who could help immediately. They might have lost the fan base for the last 2 months. And that's important to ownership, that they cannot do that. They cannot give up on the last 2 months of the season. So the Gausman deal looked like they were going down that path, but Mark Shapiro and ownership know that that's not a possibility when you've built this pleasure palace that has bars around every corner and that needs to be filled with people. You could sell tickets, but tickets are no longer the chief revenue stream for Major League ball clubs that want to be important. Yeah. And they've got to worry about an audience across the country on television and streaming. And they've got to worry about people in the ballpark filling all those bars and restaurants. And they managed to balance those two needs very well, looking to the future, as we pointed out with Soriano, Bateman, and some others. But they've done that well. So I'd have to give them an A on that. And much as I don't like giving A's to anything about the Jays. I'll admit that the trade deadline was pretty good for them.
Yeah, no, I think it was good too. I agree. It was. It looks like a good trade deadline. Obviously, a lot of things got to play out, but what they did made sense at the time, and I think that's all you can do.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Let's look at the Ricky Tiedemann. I mean, Ricky Tiedemann. We'll start with Ricky Tiedemann. We've got other topics here, but he was brought up during Brendan Little's paternity leave. He had been pitching, not necessarily that effectively at Buffalo, but the thing is that he was healthy at Buffalo. And this is a guy who was number one prospect in the organization for at least 2 years and who was in the top 100 in Major League Baseball for a couple of years. And people are saying, well, they bring him up for one game, then send him back. But I think you and I agree that that's not necessarily a negative.
No, especially for a guy who's had all these struggles and how much, he's had all these injuries and how much of it is a bit of a mental hurdle for the guy to overcome, right? So getting him up there, getting him an outing, it didn't go horribly, you know what I mean? Like sometimes getting your feet wet and getting that under your belt can set you up for maybe something even later in the season where you've done it already. You've finally got your game in. Maybe you go down and get comfortable where you are, and he could be that arm that we're talking about. You never know. I mean, it's a lot to ask for the kid, but who knows what he can give you later in the year. So yeah, ideally, I'd love to call the kid up, but like I said, what are you going to do? Brendan Little went on paternity leave. As much as we talk about Brendan Little, you're not going to tell the guy he lost his job because he had a baby.
Yeah, at least when Drew Bledsoe was replaced by Tom Brady, it was an injury. It wasn't he had a kid. That would have been the comparison. But in my mind,
yeah. And I think,
but I'm 100% on board with the way they handle that. I'm sure that when he came up, Ricky Tiedemann knew that he was going to appear in that game because it was a bullpen game. He was the first guy out of the bullpen that day. His parents were watching on TV back in California, I think. And it was a huge moment for him because he had fought so hard to come back. I remember the similar experience and hype with Nate Pearson, and he really never bounced back from the disappointment of being a number one prospect in baseball to where he is right now, sort of a journeyman. So good for Ricky Tiedemann, because I was there in the clubhouse. I was with the Blue Jays when he signed and when he showed up to training camp. And the minor league complex is no longer a separate complex. The minor league clubhouse is in with the major league clubhouse. So I passed him in the hall, and he was on top of the world as a prime prospect, and he knew it. And he had the shoulder length hair, and he was on top of the world. And then it fell apart for a couple of years. And to have him finally make it and get on a major league mound and make his debut probably is important in his development down the stretch, even if he's not the guy called up in September. But going to training camp next year, he knows what it's like.
Well, and he's barely pitched this year anyways. It's not like he's put up some numbers in Buffalo and got his game. Like, he's barely pitched anywhere. So, let's get him throwing the baseball a little better first.
Yeah, right. So Laz Estrada.
Yeah.
He was DFA'd the other day, cleared waivers, and was assigned back to Buffalo. And it came on the same day, or he was DFA'd the same day they needed a pitcher on the major league roster. And the question is, why not Laz? Well, the fact is that in the current collective bargaining agreement, you can only be optioned 5 times before you can't anymore. And he was optioned 5 times, including at the end of spring training, Estrada was sent down. He's been a good warrior for them this year. He's pitched a game. He started a game, and he's pitched in relief, and he pitched 3 straight games. He's the only guy who's pitched 3 straight days on this Blue Jays team, and the next day they sent him down. Then they called him back up. He pitched the day that he was called back up. Then they optioned him again. So he's pitched the last 4 days he's on a major league roster, he's pitched. And that's how grateful it is in Major League Baseball. Do you think that sort of manipulation will be a part of the players' negotiation with ownership?
Well, I think it always has been. I think as you know, honestly, Griff, it's a little bit somewhat abusive to a player. I mean, that you can call him up and down 5 times. I mean, so that's why that restriction is in there. So it's to give a guy an opportunity who theoretically is a major league pitcher to stay in the major leagues by exposing him to other teams. So you just can't do it 10 times. I mean, I remember, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. There's got to be a limit on what you can do. On how many times you can call a guy up and down. You don't think of the travel part of it, the stress on it. Like, it's not that easy. I know maybe it does sound like that. So, and they did expose him and nobody took him. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, with the reduction in farm systems, and everybody's got their own Laz Estrada, everybody's got that guy. Yeah. And so you could safely put a guy on waivers and believe that he's not going to be selected. And that's exactly what happened with Estrada. And now he's back at Buffalo. But to me, that is grueling. Not 17 days in a row, but
that's grueling.
Sent down 5 times. And, you're not moving your family, and it's only Buffalo. Remember when it was Las Vegas?
Oh, I was just going to mention that. How many guys we would send back? Poor Chad Jenkins. Holy smokes. Who killed that kid?
I think Chad Jenkins went to Kennesaw State, which is where our young second baseman, Franklin Griffin III, for the Ironbacks, he was going there. So we could have given him some advice on Kennesaw State, but
that's right.
We chose not to.
We chose not to. Experience it himself. Yeah.
But the Estrada thing, and we've talked about it off there. I don't know if we've talked about it on air, but one of the solutions to me to stop major league teams from doing that, because the Jays are now at 36 pitchers, 36 different pitchers in the 26th season, and you got a 13-man pitching roster, so that's ridiculous. But my solution was that as soon as you bring a kid up from AAA or AA, as soon as you bring him to the major league roster, he's locked in with major league salary for the rest of the year, major league minimum for the rest of the year. Because the difference between AAA salary and major league salary is so huge that probably has an impact on the psyche of a pitcher who gets called up and for 2 days is like, it's peeling off ones at the strip club,
That's when guys, phantom injuries get involved. I've seen that a million times.
Yeah, I was thinking that who was the kid who he's not a kid, but I think Urias, there was a moment coming where there was going to be a roster move later that day or the next day, and he hit a double and he pulled up with a hamstring halfway to second base, taken out of the game, put on the IL when he was going to be the guy that was sent.
I'm not saying that, but I've seen it a million times in the thing. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Almost don't blame guys.
Yeah. Now the Dodgers obtaining Tarek Skubal, they've gone in the tank. Offense is struggling. Bullpen is terrible. Is this a good argument for major league ownership when it comes to the December 1st negotiation? Hey, look, money doesn't always buy you success, and rounding up all the best players in baseball doesn't guarantee anything. What do you think of the Dodgers' struggles?
Well, I think it's a bad argument for the owners because they want proof that teams can't compete so they can get the salary cap. They're supposed to win. But it is kind of funny that, again, we always, you still got to play the game on the field. And to me, the money you spend is just one of the tools you have at your disposal. Now, we've talked about it. Are there some unfair advantages? Yes, the Dodgers TV contract is an absurd advantage that has to be corrected in some manner. But outside of that, I don't understand why teams having more to spend than others is always a bad thing. We're not trying to create the same team 30 times across the league because, my God, is that boring. So I don't care what you think. I look at other sports where they think this is all great and it works, and all I see are a bunch of teams that are exactly the same for the most part. You know what I mean? I don't find that entertaining. I want to have some. You got to have some big boys and little boys. You did Davis and Goliath out there.
Sports has always had that, and that's what makes it. Like, there would be, if everybody was the same, there would be no great feel-good underdog stories. You know, if every basketball player in Indiana was assigned to the different school, there would be no Hoosiers.
Right.
Movie, you know.
Well, but that's true, Griff. Like we're all forgetting, like as you get on X and everybody's supposed to have an equal chance. Well, right. Why don't we just divide everybody up every year so we can make sure going into the year everybody has the same WAR on their roster?
Well,
who cares?
And Major League Baseball has avoided the antitrust legislation by pretending to be 30 different entities competing against one another, 30 different ownership groups competing hard against one another. As soon as you decide that you can't be better than the other team, then the monopoly thing comes in, you know?
That's right.
Like if you put a cap on what you can pay athletes, then there's a conspiracy there.
Yeah.
You know, even if the negotiation took place with the players' union, there's a lot of coercion going into it. So anyway, we agree on that. A couple more items here. Ranking the Blue Jays farm system, MLB.com has the Blue Jays ranked 22nd, which is sort of a throwback to the early 2000s. And top 100 prospects, JoJo Parker at shortstop, number 26. Nolan Perry, right-hand pitcher, who had Tommy John, is coming back. He's number 96. What do you think of a 22nd ranking for the Blue Jays, or is that expected?
Yeah, I've been there for a while now. I mean, I think you'd like it to be better. I don't think I don't think it's always been that great in the last little while, but they moved Namala. They're trying to win. It's not the end of the world as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's probably, if the major league team's winning, that's the point. That's what it's always about. Obviously, you're always trying to build a better farm system, but what matters right now is what's happening at the Rogers Center.
Yeah.
And if the minor league system could support that, good.
So in terms of injuries, the Jays aren't the only ones that have injury problems. Max Fried with the Yankees back on the IL, and Carlos Rodon will be pitching Tuesday, which, as we record, is tonight, and he'll probably face the Blue Jays on Sunday in the Bronx. So, everybody's got injuries, but it's not going to help. Like, the Blue Jays are focused now on that third wild card. They have no other goal but not having to face Max Fried, because they do well against Carlos Rodon. They seem to historically. That will help them. We want to offer congratulations to the Portly Portsider, Tugboat Wilkinson, who is reportedly being called up by the Giants, and he made a reputation for himself at the World Baseball Classic for Team Canada. The joy with which he pitched and the effectiveness for a kid who was down at Class A when the WBC began. So congratulations to Tugboat Wilkinson. And with that, we will thank everyone for joining us, and look forward to more Blue Jays discussion in the wild card next week. Hopefully they go at least 3-3.
It's a big week. We're going to know a lot more by next week, Griff.
Yeah. So we'll do that. But in the meantime, thank you all for listening on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to like, share with your friends, and I appreciate it, Mal. And we'll talk again next week.
Yes, sir.